Hello and welcome back to Wheels of Interest. And what is this, I hear you say? Not a car, not a tractor, not a steam engine, nothing inside except a thatched cottage and some trees. Well, I can assure you that I'm in a very beautiful place right now, and this place is Swiss Garden, and behind me is Swiss Cottage, and this is all part of the Shuttleworth Estate. It's a bit of a blustery day, as you can probably tell. It's playing havoc with my hair, so I do apologise for the makeup department not sorting me out. But I am a one-man band at the end of the day, and no one's here to help me comb my hair or anything, so bear with me on that one. Why are we here? Well, we are here because it is the annual Shuttleworth Collection Open Engineering Weekend, and this is the time of year when they open up the workshop so we can get up close and personal with some of the exhibits and see how some of these things work. Not only that, but we have the Clayton and Shuttleworth team out with the traction engine and a new exhibit which I'll show you shortly. The threshing drum is running. We have got the fleet of tractors owned by the collection, and also a selection of the veteran and vintage cars that were owned by Richard Shuttleworth back in the mid-20th century and now form part of the collection. We're going to take a walk through the garden just to find the workshops, so follow along, let's see what we can find. Right, thank you. Okay. Once we arrive in the workshop, first thing we see is a Spitfire. Now, everyone loves a Spitfire, and if you don't love a Spitfire, well, in my view, there's something wrong with you. The way it looks, the way it sounds, and basically what it meant to us in the Second World War. Absolutely awesome machine. This is one of the ones that belongs to the collection, and they regularly have it in the engineering weekend for people to sit in the cockpit and dream of being fighter pilots. And going from the Spitfire, the most iconic aeroplane probably in the world, to the very, very oldest flying aeroplane, which is housed here at Shuttleworth, and it is the Bleriot. This plane was built in 1909. It is an original Bleriot, and it belonged to Richard Shuttleworth, one of his first aircraft that he had, and has been at the collection pretty much the whole time. And you can see it has a 3-cylinder rotary engine, and it's pretty much made of wood, cloth, and I would say string, but it's not string, it's actually wires which hold it all together. And you can see the skeleton-like frame. The people that flew these things were, well, they had balls of steel basically. Of course it had to be light, which is why it was made of wood and cloth, but crikey, you fancy getting into this thing and flying it? Not for the faint-hearted. Now in the workshop at the moment there's about 3 aircraft that are being worked on, and this one is the Dragon Rapide, which was one of the first passenger carrying aeroplanes, civilian aeroplanes. Currently the wings are off, it's being refurbished, and the fuselage and the stub wings onto which the main wings attach have all been recovered, and the whole thing is being completely and fully inspected to make sure it's good for the upcoming season. And you can see inside this aeroplane very rudimentary seating positions, not what we're used to today of course. Twin engine, 6-cylinder straight 6 petrol engines, and you'll notice that they are inverted. In other words, the cylinder heads are at the bottom, which means the crankshaft is at the top, which was quite a common thing for single engine aeroplanes in the mid 20th century, because what it did was it gave good vision for the pilot so that he didn't have to look over the top of the cylinder heads when he was flying the aeroplane. And so they inverted the engine so that the crankshaft was at the top, and therefore they could see over the cowling of the engine. 2 carburetors on this, feeding 3 cylinders each. Now this aeroplane is a Russian Polikarpov, or Soviet Union, built in 1944 at the end of the Second World War. Its operational history is not known, but it ended up at the Shuttleworth Collection in 2004, and following 7 years of restoration it was finally flown for the first time in 2011, and it has been here ever since. Again, it has a rotary engine, very much like many of the aircraft of the period. It was a biplane, and of course this was in the era when the Spitfire had been and the Hurricane had been designed and produced, so these were very, very old designs by this time, but they did the job nonetheless. And here we have the chief engineer of the workshop. He's explaining the finer points of valve timing and cam timing on Rhone rotary engines. And these engines were used extensively in the First World War on both sides, German and British.
And you can't swap any cam plate between engines. Where it's a problem, to counteract some of the wear, we can fit oversized rollers, or we have to go with new cam plates sometimes, and the information exactly how they set these up is lost, and it is an absolute nightmare. And I actually think so. During the war, if you read engine stout counts, both sides would always prefer to fit at the Rhone built the Rhone. So a lot of license built manufacturers, but they shot down an aeroplane. The Germans shot down an aeroplane with a Rhone built the Rhone. They would immediately rescue it and reuse it. And the British, everybody wanted the French built ones. The one, not so much the 80s. For some reason, the 80 Rhone seems to be much more tolerant. The 110s is actually a critical. And I'm pretty sure it's because the Rhone knew how to set them up, but I don't think they fully passed that information on to their license builders, because that is a very common thing. They ran better, they accelerated better, they got more power. I'm pretty sure our experiences is all to do with how this is set up.
That's a proprietary.
No, that's because it's geared separately. So this is a 9-cylinder. So
Because it seems
each
to have
cam,
5 loads.
well, exactly. So each cam will do more than cylinders as opposed to experiments. Depending on the gearing. Depending on the gearing. Yeah. So it's and length of the push rods, the freedom of the push, very important. But the push rod goes through because it moves around like this. It's got a gland nut, a gland in the cylinder. And because the cylinder is a mixture of it can both be a source of leaking out and leaking in. And so that has to be tight, but it can't, as in relatively well sealed. But it prevents the push rod makes it hang up a bit at all. Not so much industrial choke because it's worked on that, but it's all strong. That screws it all up as well. So, we had a new set of valves made and exhaust valves made, and they're ostensibly identical, and the engine just would not run at all. So it's completely screwed up. We found out they're about half a gram heavier than the originals, and that because that affected because it was now, and we had to cure it by putting a slightly heavier push rod. So it's a nightmare.
And this strange machine was what was known as an aircraft engine starter, built by a company called Hucks. They used a Model T Ford frame, axles and engine. They fabricated a wooden chassis into which they put the engine, and that then drove a gantry drive which connected onto the prop shaft of the propeller, and it spun the propeller over and no doubt prevented quite a lot of accidents for people that used to start piston engine aircraft by hand. And what is so good about this engineering weekend is you can see aircraft and various bits of machinery and all sorts of things being rebuilt, renovated, and you can get right up close and personal. And there's no barriers here. You can get right up close and personal to the aircraft, and you can see here where they're recovering flight surfaces, wings, ailerons, and basically everything that they need to do to keep these aircraft flying. Now this is part of a 1936 Percival Mew Gull, and when I was a kid I used to come to Shuttleworth flying days, and I remember this aircraft flying every flying show that I came to. It came to Old Warden in 1939. One has to remember that this aircraft, built in 1936, was only 33 years after the Wright brothers first flew their Wright Flyer, which was the first powered flight in 1903. Now I can claim a distant connection to the Percival Company because my mother worked for Hunting Aircraft, which was later BAC, British Aircraft Company, and she was a draftsman. And I say draftsman and I mean draftsman because in the 1960s draftsmen and draftswomen were different breeds. Draftswomen were basically copyists. And they copied the design drawings that draftsmen drew and designed. And my mother was a draftsman, and she worked on the BAC 111. And the Percival Company was a predecessor to Hunting Aircraft and ultimately BAC. And I'm very proud of the fact that my mother was in a man's world back in 1961 when she was designing wings with men back in that day, and eventually flew the BAC 111 out of Luton Airport. And I just love the history of all of the decals and the markings that the aircraft had on them. Moving outside now to the Clayton and Shuttleworth display. You've seen these before, but I like to show the threshing drum and the elevator and Phoenix working. They rarely put any straw through this rig because it makes a heck of a mess. But they can have it running, so at least you can get an idea of how it's supposed to work. And if you pause on the placard, you'll be able to read all about the threshing drum. Built in 1919, and Clayton and Shuttleworth were global pioneers. They sold their equipment all over the world. And everything you see here has been restored by the volunteers at Shuttleworth in the Clayton and Shuttleworth Heritage Team. And of the same year, 1919, we have Phoenix, Clayton and Shuttleworth General Purpose Traction Engine. Please enjoy Phoenix's Poetry in Motion. Now, the latest exhibit in the Clayton and Shuttleworth Heritage Collection is the 1908 portable engine. And this engine was built in Lincoln in 1908, and it was exported to Australia and spent its whole working life there. It's been at the collection about 10 years, and 2025 is finally the year where it is going to be put back into steam, hopefully for the Bedfordshire Steam and Country Fair in September 2025. It's taken about 4 or 5 years to actually get on with the job, and I'll let James explain the finer elements of bearing adjustment.
Bearings war to take the slop out, they just filed these faces down, move them closer together because these fit in here. Should do. Those actually go in here, and then, as you can imagine, they're in, and then they have a bit of metal that goes here and a wedge that holds it all in place.
Right.
There's actually, we had to get it to fit properly, we have a 1/4 of an inch backing piece in here. So we suspect about that much has probably been filed off over the years of its use. So we can't find the drawings for that, but looking at everything else, it's probably that dimension should actually equal that dimension. So
did you work that out before you cut this on the side?
yes. Yeah.
The engine has had a complete new firebox. And boiler. And smoke box. And a very different type of steam vehicle. Here we have the Locomobile steam car that was built in 1900. A very rickety looking, flimsy looking chassis. With a steam engine and boiler and burner, lever controls for everything you need to make it work, and it's chain driven off of the crankshaft of the steam engine. The chain's not in place at the moment, it's undergoing restoration, as you can see. Again, not for the faint-hearted. This young lady here is test running a rotary engine, a rotary aircraft engine on the back of this pickup. And if you watch carefully, as she increases the revs, you can actually see the pickup actually trying to drag itself backwards, because this would be quite powerful. And she's obviously standing in the airstream of this propeller, wearing goggles and ear defenders because it's making a lot of noise. But every time she increases the revs, you can actually, if you watch carefully, see the chassis of the vehicle actually dip down. And if it wasn't chocked, it would make its way across the airfield. What's really good about the engineering weekend is that there's lots of people on hand to explain the exhibits, but you also get to try your hand at stuff as well. And here we've got the field gun. People can actually operate it. It was a 2-man operation, one to rotate the turret and one to raise it up. and in a moment you'll see a target appear on the end of a stick, which they can then follow with their sights, which would have been obviously an aircraft or some such thing in the sky that they want to shoot down. And here comes the target, which looks like a tennis ball on the end of a bamboo pole. And the aim of the game is to follow the target and then shoot it down. And finally, I'll leave you with the vehicle parades that took place during the day, starting with White Rose, motorcycles, cars and tractors.
Sorry? Brought a few more people. Yeah, we can be off the house.
If you like what you see, please like and subscribe to our channel. Every little helps, gets us out there, gets people seeing what we're doing. We're happy to share what we're doing. Join us on our mechanical adventures. Put a subscription down, it doesn't cost you anything. And please like the video and share to your friends so that it gets us out there and gets us seen. We'll leave the last word to Phoenix, and until next time, take care and bye for now.